Thank you again, Tarun, for joining us, and thank you everybody else for joining this conversation. I'll start by introducing Tarun first. Tarun is an Indian director. He has several critically acclaimed short films under his name. The short film Amma Meri, which means my mother, set against the backdrop of an agrarian crisis in Haryana, featured at prestigious film festivals, including in Tampere in Finland, International Indian Film Festival of India, and the Mumbai International Film Festival. Another short film, Kala, meaning black, offers a bold commentary on the racist attacks against Africans in Delhi. It secured an Oscar qualification by winning the Best Short at the SignQuest Film Festival and the VR Festival in the United States. Jan's latest project, the Ballad of the Mountains, which we will be discussing today, tackles the challenges faced by marginalized communities, especially the pressing issue of girls' education in India. Beyond his films, he has contributed to the Netflix series Kohra as a second unit and associate director. In each of his narratives, Tarun adeptly captures the complex socio-political dynamics that depict the struggles, injustices, and resilience of communities often navigating systems of inequality. Thank you, Tarun, for your time today. And we'll start this conversation by me asking some of your questions based on the films, and then we'll open the floor for some questions from the audiences, only till the time we have.
Yes.
So yeah, and also because I'm assuming that most of
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
yeah. Also because I assume that most of us have not watched the film Ballad of the Mountain, so I'll talk briefly about it and also share the trailer, which Tarun was very kind enough to share with me.
Sure. Okay.
So, Ballad of the Mountains tells the story of a young girl where she has big dreams and sees education as a path to success. However, in a country where opportunities are unevenly distributed, her journey is fraught with challenges. The film depicts these obstacles and her determination to pursue her dream despite the odds. Yes.
काकू, आज मास्टर जी ने क्लास में जंगल में रहने वाली एक लड़की की कहानी सुनाई, जिसने कागज के टुकड़े जोड़ जोड़ के पंख बनाए और उड़ने की कोशिश की। पर पता नहीं कि वो पहाड़ी के उस पार जा पाई कि नहीं।
So, firstly, I was very interested in knowing, Tarun, how did you come across this topic? Because I'm assuming that you're not from the hills, from Uttarakhand. So, how is it that you came across this topic and decided to work on it?
So, I I've been working mostly in UP and stories from Haryana, mostly from very early on documentaries, mostly not directing but researching, line producing, sometimes writing, and in post production. So I got exposed to very early on, exposed to the real stories on ground, and I kind of connected with it because my family is also from UP, UP and Haryana both. So I kind of connected with the people there. With so all the other stories that I worked on, written, and which I we could direct, because there are lots of stories that we wrote and we always wanted to direct, all of them, but we could not. So we direct only a few. So Amma Meri was set there, because I knew the region. For this, I I know somebody very closely, and this is their relationship. How they managed, how they um, worked hard in early in their childhood, coming from hills, and then made it big in the city. So I wanted to work with children. I wanted to do a children content for a very long time. And I was looking for stories. So I was just traveling. I was going to Himachal, I was going to Uttarakhand, I was going to Rajasthan. And I have also worked with, in theater with children, and also, with different NGOs who work with children, mainly women, like female education, and, those topics that I also work on as other projects. So when I wanted to make a children content, I thought, why not mix it with education? Why not look at it from the point of view of a kid? Like how do they understand? Do they have this understanding that education is important, or do they? What circumstances are they in? And how do they take it forward? And how do things in mind, and one reference point, a reference of somebody I knew. I started traveling. I started going to different places, teaching, taking workshops, and at the same time started writing also. So we wrote many stories, many different stories. This is the one I think which we developed with the kids, which came out nice. And the reason for that was to also involve kids because these were non-actors. So I didn't want to write something and give it to somebody to act. I wanted to take inspirations from their own lives, and also was open to change characters according to the person who's going to act, so that the character looks more closer to reality because they are playing themselves than something that I've written. So that's what I also do every time when I write, except in Amma Meri, because in Amma Meri we had the amazing Anurag Arora. So he was doing much more we expected. But otherwise, yeah. So that's how I came across this topic, and yeah, yeah, it was a good process for me.
Yeah, so one thing that is very, very beautiful about the film is how you show the relationship between the girl who has her dreams and the younger, sister. So, why do you felt the need to bring the younger sister? Was it to give strength to the main character, or was it something else?
So it was again, mm, I think was necessary. It came only from the need of the story. When we were writing and workshopping at the same time, again, I mean, it's again, I took a reference from a real life person who I know, and they had a relationship. They were two sisters. They are two sisters. So here I didn't want to copy everything as such because their story is quite different, and this was quite different. So I was looking at a pair who had this connection, who we don't, I mean, I didn't want to force it to anyone, any kid, that behave like that. So during the workshops we discovered that these two were always hanging out together. The younger kid was very comfortable around Dia is her name, who played the main lead, and Kavyanjali is the younger kid. So Kabu was always very comfortable around her, and we thought, so like I said, that I really didn't set to go and make a film which I had written. I wanted to explore, so there were many different storylines. I knew where it will go, but the narrative was I was writing and suing with the kids, what they're capable of. So that's what I picked up from there. That okay, maybe I can explore this relationship. The other part was that during my research, I found out that lots of these kids, because their parents are laborers migrate. They migrate from one place to another for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month, or sometimes, and they come back. They stay there for so many days. So usually they are out. So the kids are alone. Usually the elder kid becomes the sole protector, or to the one who looks after everything around the house. And usually there are more kids, not just one, like two, three kids there in the house. So that's the regular dynamics that there is, which I saw at least in few instances and few places. So I just picked that up and I started working around it. So that's how I kept the younger kid. Also, for the story point of view, I think it's very important because we need mentor, because you can't do everything yourself. Once, so which we used in the film, once she gives up, the younger kid goes back and gives her the book. So which is very instinctive, not forced, because the younger kid Kabu doesn't know what she's doing. She's just behaving instinctively. For example, if you drop something and there's a kid behind you, they'll just pick it up and give it to you. So that's what I used. And I think it worked well there.
Also, when I read the description of the film, so there was a mention that the story is also of a represents Dalit, community and the challenges that they face, but it is not clearly mentioned or stated in the film. So, did you keep it open to interpretation? Was it intentional to not state it, or tell directly that this is a family and this is their background? Of course, the poverty shown is apparent, but that
Sure.
part is not.
So yeah, so actually, that tells a bit also about the place and the region we shot in. Uttarakhand, as we know, is at Devbhoomi. So it's like a pyramid, and it's very evident the top part, the roads, the businesses, and the wherever the better reach is occupied by the people who have had the resources early on. So Thakurs and Brahmins and all the other people. All the other people from the very early on, like I don't know when, because didn't get the I couldn't get my hands on the real facts about like for 50 or 100 years ago or what, but I'm assuming that it has been the same pattern. So a lot of these people who work for the people who own the road and everything, the businesses, they live down near the river streams, and those are not those are come the lower stratas of the hierarchy. So I thought, and I always try to be true to the region whenever I'm picking up a topic. So for example, if somebody in Uttarakhand would look at it, would not probably find a need to understand if it's a Dalit or not, because they will understand. Because this is our story. We know the situation here. For the global point of view or the other audience, I think it still works because there are enough information that you relate it somehow. I also don't want to really pinpoint and say they are Dalits, because it's not, after a point, it's not only their story also. Like maybe like 10% other people are also. So maybe, some otherwise I'll just restrict it to only one part or one community. Whereas this could be a story in different parts, different region, different setups, different backgrounds, different girls from anywhere, any part of the world. So that's the idea. Yeah.
Um, and also how you mentioned that you try to be true to the region. So that means whichever region you're working in, you pay attention to the culture and the background. So so do you look for stories, think, "Ki, okay, I want to do this story," and you travel accordingly, or you just bump into stories and you say, "Ki, okay, this is what I should do"?
So one reason, I mean, one thing the opportunity that I got in this work is that I traveled a lot, like any time with any work with any project. So I was earlier based in Delhi. So but I think out of 100 projects, I only did 10 in Delhi. Uh, all of so and why I'm calling it opportunity, because I got to travel all over India because of these projects. So whenever I travel, I think it's from the beginning I have a habit of just sit and observe people and get my hands on local films, local songs, local writers, read local stories, talk to local people. Also part of the research of the projects that I'm working on, but then that gives me enough information, or help me feel familiar about the places that I go to, and also about the topics that I have worked on. So because of this habit, I always loved I anyways love to travel. So every year I make it a point to pack my bags and go to places like Kasar Devi or Dharamshala, or other places that I get to explore. So wherever I go, I don't want to, whenever I go, I try not to be a tourist. I try and hang out at those places where the locals would go, and so that makes me feel familiar, and then I feel more connected, and then I think I'm more observant. And when I read stuff, and talk to people, then my mind starts working in terms of, possible stories here, possible stories there. I mean, largely I think something or the other in my head, like every day. Like it's like, okay, I have to do this, so I'm gonna make this. I'm going there for 10 days and then come back and I'll do this, which doesn't translate into a film every time, like all the time. It's just 2 or 3% that we can, I can make something into. Um, but because of that habit, I keep writing. So for example, we have up till now in 10 years, let's say we have written up to 30 to 35 scripts, short scripts. Could make only 5 or 6. But we are still writing. So whenever I go, I read something, I think of a story, I, write it on my phone or record it or things like that. And that is how I, found the way to explore and understand and find stories. So it's interrelated, the travel and finding the story. So it's both. So whenever I travel, I get inspiration, I think, and whenever I get inspiration, I also travel. So it's that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Also, most of your films, they are somehow or the other exploring complex, societal problems, always, almost always. So, what is it that draws you to these issues? And because you may have many opportunities, but why is it that you're most drawn to these?
So, I haven't really thought about it. But maybe because of the documentary background, I was earlier in NDTV, like Red Dot. I was working on, for reality shows. A lot of my friends are journalists, and also I was in Quint for some time. So maybe like because I've got exposed to a lot of politics in Delhi. Delhi is that hub. I very recently moved to Bombay with Kohra. So these were, I think, the obvious picks, like whatever I was, seeing around, noticing happening around. I was just, I think, getting inspired automatically to make those, to talk about those. I found, that if I can, come up with a story, and at the same time, like in a thriller genre, in a, you know, so I call it social thrillers. I don't know if there is any concept like that. But yeah, so because I'm also at the same time improving my craft. Most of them are all indie films. We have a lot of resources. We just go there, we shoot, and we explore, and then so we have to spend a lot of time planning it and shoot quickly and then come out, like go into post production. So I think, like the all the indie filmmakers from early 2000, European filmmakers, I started, when I started looking at their work, I noticed and I also learned how to shoot. So once I figured out all that out, it was just that, okay, once, like, I have nothing at stake at the moment because I'm making a short film. I'm trying to, what best can I do? Like, I really don't like rom-coms as such. Like, no, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it if given a chance. I will, but but I'm saying, if I want to make something on my own, I'm always finding roots and more relatability in the stories that are you call current topics, and universal topics. So yeah, I mean, and also at the same time, by the time we finish, those topics are gone. So after a point, it becomes like it becomes my topics, my subject.
Right.
So so yeah, so that's yeah.
That is what I was going to ask you next, because at Newsreel Asia also we do something very similar. We call Newsreel Asia, a marriage between journalism and filmmaking, and what you are saying sounds very similar. So you have had that background of working with NDTV and Quint, so you know that you have that journalism background. So this fits very well, but also by making these feature films that you are making, not necessarily documentary, do you think you're performing the role also of a journalist even then, while you are making, for example, Ballad of the Mountains? It's a fiction, but still, even while doing that, you are performing your role as a journalist. Do you think so?
So, like when I was with the NDTV and the Quint, I was not in the, I was mostly taking care of the projects, like not the journalism part, but some other projects. But yeah, because I was exposed to by a lot of my friends, like I said, are from advertising and journalism, and all filmmaking and documentary filmmakers are, a lot of my friends. So in a way, I think all the conversations over the years have been about discussing the current topics, what's going on, how to say it, watching and admiring the works of, lots of filmmakers from different part of the world. It has kind of become like a default setting. That okay, whenever you're thinking of a story, you're thinking, "Acha, am I addressing some topic? Is there an opportunity to address a topic? Then why not?" Because me coming from certain privilege in Delhi has certain resources. I think that why not make use of those things and talk about something which probably many people who'd want to may or may not be able to talk about. So if I am getting an opportunity to do it, why not? So that has been the approach. Apart from that, like I said, that these things have become um somehow it interests me. Mm. That okay, I want to have information. I want to have, like, if I see that something is going on, if I read something, I want to find out, okay, why it's written there like that. Maybe it's there another story. Maybe okay, what happened the day before or what will happen the day after. What's the follow up of this? I I don't know. I do it like that. It's not something that I was taught or I really thought about, but I like to do it. So I think that's the reflection in the stories also, and the work that is there.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what do films mean to you? For example, if you've worked on a film and it has finally come out, how does it make you feel? And what does this medium mean to you?
Well, if I can talk very personally, it's very personal actually. When I was younger, I thought that I don't have a voice. I don't know, for some reason, because I thought that everything was too fast and I cannot express myself. So I was an aggressive child, like not externally aggressive, but internally aggressive child, and that has affected me for a long time. So by default, I was like more observant. Sorry, I was always you know connecting with what was going on, what was not working out according to me, for in any situation. Like, it doesn't have to be any specific situation, but that I think that shaped me a bit. So when I started working on a film, it was extremely difficult because it's communication. which so you have to communicate, which I couldn't do early on. So I think because I had no exposure, so I just jumped into it. If I had known, if I had a lot of information, I wouldn't have done it, I think. Like, for example, if today I probably wouldn't have gone and made Amma Meri, the because how difficult it was. I we had no information, so we just like, this is a story, we have to go and make it, and so let's go and find a location, let's find and talk to people, we got a house, now let's find out actors, we got a yes from Anurag Arora, and then everything happened like that. So I think craft wise also, and so this is a current learning, this is a new learning, that I don't want to plan a lot of things. I want to just do, what's coming to me on an individual level, because what I can control is myself, not the other variables. So films means like this freedom to express, this voice that I didn't have, which now I feel I have whenever I have a film coming out. And it talks about something, and when people connect with it, I feel happy, I feel acknowledged, I feel that I have a presence, and I can do something. So yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah. And have you also worked with documentary projects before, or do you plan to work more in that field, or you're very happy working in the fiction feature side of spec?
So my first preference definitely is fiction. I have worked on documentaries, not as a director, uh, but yes, I want to. I think documentary needs more patience, and hats off to the documentary filmmakers and my documentary filmmaker friends, who have done really well. Um, it's just that I connect with fiction more. I connect with creating more. And the more I can challenge myself. So I don't know. It's the how do I put it? The mind, when you know that it's difficult, but you crave for only on doing that, and later on you regret it in the process, but now you're stuck, so you have to go to the finish line. So this is a loop which I again, like, every time I get into, and then I have to finish it, but once it gets finished, then it's very satisfying. So then, because it's satisfying and it starts going to festivals and starts getting acknowledged, then I say, okay, let's do it again. But then maybe the like after a few months, after when I start something else, it will start happening again in my mind, that why am I doing it? So I think documentary is a very special, thing that one can work on, but there one has to have like super like love for it, to go and spend a lot of time shooting, making things. I don't like to do that. I also spend the same similar amount of time, but on researching, writing, traveling, not shooting.
Right, right.
Squeeze it in 10.
Yeah. And what are some of the projects that you're working on that we would get to see in the near future, if you'd like to mention?
Sorry. So yeah. So I'm mm, currently we are mostly writing. I did this show called Kohra, and last year we finished. I did it from start to finish. So that, and with that I moved to Bombay, and I think that gave me a new perspective, that opened my mind also, because Delhi is restricted in a lot of sense, also in terms of resources to make a film. So my lot of my friends there in Bombay are working on web series, films, writing, directing, producing. And as soon as I landed there, I felt that okay, it's not so bad. It's good, because you have to be in a place where the energy is the same, like everybody is trying to do something. So somehow, I'm like really getting this focus and this energy to write. And the idea currently right now is to write as much as I can. At the same time, there is a feature we have written of the same on the same topic, Ballad of the Mountain, which explores more wider areas of the same girl, Dia. And so we are pitching that as well, keeping different set of actors in mind and different set of budgets, like whoever gets attached to it, the producer, and it has a certain budget. So, I'm learning all that process, like, how to fit things according to the budgets and all. So that another script that we are writing is on dance bars. Uh, and there is one that currently I've just started reading about. I have an idea, but I've just started sharing it with my team. It's a crime, it's a murder mystery set in the hills. So I mean, it will take some time, but I think mostly this year or the like half of next year will go into writing mostly, and then we'll see. I'm also open to projects as a co-director, like a web series or like if I'll get couple of episodes, I'm pitching at the moment like that also as a director. But if not, then as a second unit director is also good.
Right. All
Yeah.
sound very interesting. All the best to you.
Thank
So
you.
those were my questions, and I would now like to open the floor for questions from the audience. So yeah, if anybody has a question, please.
Yes.
Good evening.
Uh,
I was actually going through one of the reviews of Ballad of the Mountain.
gee.
It was by Let's Catch Up. And the title itself hit me so hard na, that it basically the heading goes a soul crushing, nostalgic, and profoundly overwhelming ticket to childhood.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, such a wonderful review heading for your film. So how does that make you feel as a producer, as a maker, for something that you have made, something you have done? I mean, I just want to know the personal side of Tarun.
Yeah.
When you read a soul-crushing, nostalgic, profoundly overwhelming ticket to childhood, I mean, have you hit the bullseye, or I
Yeah.
mean, how do you feel when you read this?
Yeah. So the first reaction when I read it, I think this was during Mami when it came. Uh,
October, yeah.
this was, yeah, October 23rd or 4th. So when I read it, I said, really? Like, is it, have we have we done something like that? So it's, I mean, it took time for me to sink it in. It felt really good to read the review, and that was the first review. Uh, so before that, I thought, I think it's also in my mind. It's like the producer comes up and thinks like that. Okay, this works here. This has worked in Mami. Acha, where let's see where it will go, because maybe the review for an Indian audience is good. Is it also good for the European audience? Because I'm targeting to show it to the European film festivals, which has we have also shown it in Cine Lebu, which is the Oscar and the Goya qualifying festival. In It was in July. So after that, we haven't really showed it anywhere. So hopefully, I think from January or February, it starts going to different places in outside India. So I felt that when once I read the review, I felt very happy. I felt okay, like people are liking the film. The message and the story that we tried to tell is, going across, and people are connecting with it. So I felt like a little more hopeful for this kind of content, because it's not a straightforward content. It's again, silent. It's a silent film, not really has how do you say, the entertainment questioned as such of engaging you, because it moves at a slow pace. um so earlier also, like a lot of our work early on was like that, in terms of screenplay. So it also scared me, because the moment you take up this kind of projects, it's another challenge. Ek to you are making a short film in a different part, with not with non-actors, and then this style, and then if people are gonna like it or not, and it's gonna go to the festival, because festivals is the market for these kind of films, the main market where it get exposed to, and later on maybe some platforms which are very few, where it can find a release. So that gives me a assurance, okay, that I can talk about my film confidently now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Sunil, for the question. And now we have Jyoti. Jyoti has raised her hand. Please go ahead, Jyoti.
Hi, Tarun.
Hello.
Yeah, pleasure listening to you. So I personally, as a filmmaker, I feel that I'm very drawn to. I feel that children sort of bring out. They add a rawness to the emotions and the storytelling in a film. But whenever I think of having children as protagonists, there's certain sense of hesitation. Can you give some insight into like this experience of how it was to direct children and really make them hold the film together? So yeah, how is it to work with children as
Yeah.
protagonists?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a recent discussion actually in Dharamshala also. So uh, actually, I learned that while working with children, you can't really plan a lot. What worked for me is because I knew where the stories was heading, and I had written multiple scenes of the same scenarios. That if not this, maybe this will work. If I can get the scene inside the house, but I'll also try and shoot. If this doesn't work, then I'll also shoot outside the house, so that the story moves forward, the narrative doesn't break. Also, I shot a lot, um, without any scenes in mind. Like, okay, let's shoot her while sitting, looking outside, doing something, things like that. Random, footage that we got, a lot of it, because we don't know where to use it. We don't know where it'll come in handy. So with kids, I found that if you go in with a mind that okay, you want these things from them, you might not be able to. So one has to be open and fluid in terms of okay, what can we do together, and be ready to be surprised in both ways. But maybe one day is not very good. The second day or the another day could be super good, because it's about finding that rhythm together. Because with these kids, I think what worked was that personal connection. We were not going there to just, okay, we have hired you to go and come on the set and shoot. It was more like, okay, we'll have to pick you up in the morning, get you ready, get you breakfast, feed you, then hug you, then take you to the location, get back, play there, okay, set it up, and then okay, let's try. And then in the meanwhile, the technical crew understands, okay, they have to set the camera because they already know what to shoot. And then when they say, okay, they are ready, they say, okay, let's try something. That took up some time. Uh, I felt it was not feasible in terms of like production wise, because we spent more time on it. But I think it worked in our favor, to give more time to the kids, because then they were quite natural, and their relationship, as an elder or younger sister, what we wanted was there on screen. So yeah, it really depends. Or else you spend a lot of time training beforehand, like everything.
Yeah, I assume a lot of time must have gone into that building that trust
Yes,
with them
yes,
forward into the story. Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, Vishal has a question.
Tarun, when you are making a film, when you are writing it, directing it, uh, are you doing it for the festivals, or are you doing it for mass consumption that ordinary people will be able to consume this film? Or do you think there is a tension between uh, what or the approach of the film festivals versus the common people? I understand that you explained that you are for uh, film festivals because it's a gateway to the release of the film, and once it is released, that's when people will be, or the masses, or ordinary people will be able to consume it. Do you think that comes in your way of what you really want to say and how simply you would want to say it, which may not be appreciated by the film community, but perhaps people will like it more?
Yeah. So, I mean, very interesting question. Actually, that's the thing that I'm exploring now. Like I said, I've moved to Bombay, so I have to also think about um, doing things which can reach to the bigger audience. Um, mm, so why I say that is because I can keep on like the kind of content or the number of scripts that we have. I want to make all of them, but maybe not not all the content is currently ready or apt to be seen by the audience. There's a lot of experimental stuff. There is also a lot of topics which are not to be talked about today. So one always thinks like that also, because how do you say, like this is the thing that I really like to do, but then this is also work. And this is what I've learned recently. So now my quest is to stick to the topics that I want to make, but at the same time bring in that craft and narrative that I want in it. Now, how it will take shape, we'll see in the next film, or if it's a feature film or a web series. But in the scripts, I'm trying to be true to, and also, be able to maintain what's there in my mind. Yeah. If in case we have to change it a bit according to production, according to some things, but the story remains, I don't mind. Just to make it more accessible to the larger audience. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Tarun, and thank you, Vishal, for that question. Does anyone else have a question?
So
Mari?
I wanted to ask, when you were doing, so this is more of a positive story. I think we can call that. So, what were certain qualities that you wanted for your um, main character, your protagonist, to have? And it's because I'm doing a series called Resilience, and I largely shoot, it's nonfiction but positive stories, like the title says. So I'm just trying to like gain some knowledge here.
Right. So you're asking if what the qualities that I seek in my protagonist.
Yeah, yeah. Or in any story where you're trying to do a positive story, what are the certain characteristics that you try to have in them so that the audience can perceive it?
So I think this was a learning in this film while shooting this, was the what you see in the eyes of the character, of the actor. So there were many other kids, all beautiful kids, all had different energy, but I think I connected the most with Dia and Kabu, because they were doing just what they were used to, and not really were hampered or affected by our presence, and they in a way welcomed us. We were part of their team rather than we made them ours. So this was a one-off, I would say, because when I'll do the next children content or hopeful content, I'll be able to share more. But I think what I learned was, I think it was whatever I could see it in their eyes, and not by what they were saying. That I went by that. I went by gut feeling. That okay, I'm feeling okay, and I'm feeling that okay in the screen, on screen, and whenever meeting them, they're genuine. And then if that part is ticked, if they can do something or they can't do something, that's okay. I'll manage, because then that's where I come in, and my crew comes in.
which are some of the films that you are inspired by, both in the indie genre that you usually make and also in the mainstream kind of a setup. So if you could tell us, so we could also watch them and
Yeah, there are
understand.
actually lots of them, lots and lots of them, and it keeps adding every month because I watch a lot. Like early, I remember early on, I used to like watch even at home like 5 to 6 films a day. And then at festivals, then I used to go to every festival everywhere, and also watch anywhere. Like then the phones come in, so I started watching everything on the phone and iPads and everywhere. So the few films, like couple of films, kind top of my head that comes to my mind is one is Distant by Nuri Bilge Ceylan. It's the local name is I think Uzak. And the another one is called Araf by Yassi Mustaglo, another Turkish. That's beautiful. Then the earlier work of Nicholas Winding Refn, Pusher trilogy, I really like. Inglorious Bastards. My all-time favorite is Heather. Also Gulzar Saab's films. I have started watching recently, not recently, but few years back, I started watching Malayalam cinema. So most of the films that I watched in Malayalam cinema, I love all of them. Recent one is Manjumal Boys, also Brahma Yugam. So yeah, so
Yeah, Manimal Boys is a good one. Thank you.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, so I watch a lot. I really loved Village Rockstar 2. I think it's better than the one. I told Rima also. So, so yeah. Also, Santosh I liked. Yeah, yeah. These films. Then there would be many if I think about like.
Yeah, yeah. I know when we are asked this question, especially we just can't think of, which are the best films. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Do we have more questions? If not,
I
yeah,
just actually had one last question, but I mean, only if time allows. I think you have
we have
of
some time.
But quickly, maybe if you can tell us about like how your journey as a journalist from Delhi to like now a filmmaker in Bombay. How was that? How was that transition? And not coming from a filmmaking background as such, how was it to enter the industry and yeah, where you are now?
So, yeah, so as in it's the transition I think wasn't planned, nothing was planned. It's just that okay, I'm like it was one thing at a time. If I look at it back like now, like 10 years back. So okay, I'm getting this opportunity, let's do this. I'm working on this, I'm getting this opportunity, let's do this. Maybe the money is less in fiction, okay, but let's do this because I want to do it. Then okay, pick up something else in your other time and save some money so that you can do more of the stuff that you like. So the choices probably that I could make or got an opportunity to make, and then finally I was able to make a few make a few films, uh, which then travel to film festival.
Yeah,
But nothing was planned. So you look at it after 10 years and you say, okay, there is a body of work which I can pitch. There is a portfolio because I remember like 8 years back, someone said, just send your portfolio. So what do I have? What can I send you? Okay, so I used to make my resumes and my name is this, I like this. But what do I really send? So now I can just send, then I think, okay, now I don't have to send anywhere because there is enough information everywhere. But I think it's just one thing at a time I kept doing. And in Bombay, I think like you mentioned, which is a good thing you mentioned because I'll get the opportunity to address that. 90%, 95% of people are not from the industry. So the industry works with people. Only the few who are really running the industry in terms of the larger scale because they now control it, and which happens with every business. You do it for 100 years and then you own a larger share. Are seen, talked about, and are also able to influence a lot of other decisions. But that I think doesn't affect in terms of what you want to really do. Because one thing one should understand is that, do you want to make a film, or do you want to make a film with a big budget, with a big stars, with big everything? What matters? So for me, what matters is to tell a story. I can now also tell it on iPhone. So I am looking at it as, okay, what is working in my favor? Because I can't control anything else. But if I can keep doing what I can do better or best, then maybe some other opportunity will arrive. So that's how I think I am taking it now. But that's of course after many years of, okay, maybe it's not working out, maybe it's working out. What do I do? Should I leave it? Should I do something else? I'm writing something. There's a lot of frustration. There are things that I've shot which I couldn't make, ran out of money, then started picking something else. A lot of projects I did which never got finished. So, but that's how the journey is. I think it's not only the film industry, but everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. It is very insightful. And thank you for being a part of this conversation. This truly means a lot to us. And we hope to stay connected. Vishal, would you like to say some words in the last?
Yeah, no, very thankful to Tarun, and he's the only filmmaker that I connected instantly. Like there was no, what do you say? There was nothing coming in between when I very briefly spoke to him because of his colleague, Nasira Khan, who was also supposed to join us, but then I think she's traveling or she has another engagement. Um, so I loved it, and I loved your films, Tarun. We are a lot like you. One slight difference is that while you set your films in reality and you do great amount of research and then try to depict the reality, but through fiction, we have confined ourselves to real characters and not making them act, but then, have them tell their stories. But I think we belong to that same family. And like what Surbhi said, we hope to keep in touch with you and Nasira and others. Uh, and hopefully that we'll find even a common project in the coming future, in the near future.
Yes, that would be
Thank
lovely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me. It was great talking to you, and thanks for the opportunity, because this is our first, online conversation with this film. We're going to IFI after this. The screening is on the 22nd morning, and let's hope, that we find more audience there and people resonate with the film more. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Tarun, and thank you everyone else for joining. Yeah, so yeah, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye bye.